And because of that, you got a lot of kids growing up in the hood who are like, that ain't for me.
Yeah.
Right? That ain't for me. All right, because they're telling me that a writer is a corncob pipe and a corduroy blazer. They're telling me a writer is Shakespeare, who I personally think is amazing, right? But I don't know if I'm in Brixton if I'm like I want to be Shakespeare, right? Instead, I'm like, yo, I want to be Inua Ellams.
Mm.
You know that brother? He's a UK London cat.
Yeah.
Genius. Writes all those what to play about the barbershop. I want to be that dude. So like Shakespeare's cool, but I want to be Inua Ellams.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Alex is definitely high up on my list of heroes, and just
the
work he does in schools is incredible. And actually, he's the one who introduced me to you and said, "Have you read Jason's stuff?" And I was like, "Okay, no, great, okay, I'll get on that."
Wonderful. Did you see his episode of Smart Acts?
Yes, I did.
Amazing.
Yes,
even that, right? Even that. If you're a kid, it's like, yo, I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We have some questions from booksellers. I'm just going to pull them up. That I'm going to give to you. Okay. What difference has winning the Carnegie Medal made to you and your reception in the UK?
Oh, it changed everything in the UK. It's funny, and I always tease you all about this because I can't help myself because I'm still a knucklehead kid from the neighborhood. But UK, y'all were the last to get on board with me. Right, Germany jumped on like I wanted to be in England. I wanted to specifically be like read in England specifically, and I was like, yo, I just want, especially like in London and in these sort of neighboring parts. I'm like, I want to be in this because I know it so well, and because I know how similar we are. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we your little brother. Put the books here, and no one will publish me. And so everybody from Kazakhstan, Korea, right, all over, and I'm like, and they kept saying, well, the books are too American, right? That was sort of the sort of argument. It was like, we think the books are too American, and needless to say, so when I won the Carnegie, the first thing is I felt vindicated. I felt like, see, because in my mind I'm like, let the kids choose.
Yeah.
Like all the adults, like the kids, it's too American. They're not gonna get it. Well, let's just let the kids choose. Let's see. And the kids chose, right? And it is what it is. And so I feel vindicated, and I feel very proud of the fact that, like, one, my gut was right, but two, that like, if it always feels good to prove people wrong. That being said, it does, right? And that being said, though, it's been wonderful now, just because now I think the door is a little wider for me to have more of these kinds of conversations and to exchange some of these ideas, and also to continue to sort of have my stories live over there. I think you all have brilliant writers of your own, right? So that y'all don't need me, that's for sure. Y'all don't need a Jason Reynolds over there. But I
definitely disagree. But carry on.
I always say that. I say that to say that, like, you all have a rich tradition, is what I'm saying, and I think to be a part of that tradition for me is humbling. More than so, like, I beat my chest and tease you all about how long it took, but the truth is that I'm humbled to be a part of such a rich tradition, and furthermore, I'm excited that young people will have more American, like they'll have a better sense of American culture through this than just music, because I'm concerned that what music is showing them is a very, 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 very thin and distorted sliver of what Black American culture is, a very thin and often distorted image. You know what I mean? And so these books, I hope, will give them a bit of a broader landscape to say, like, actually, we all are not just in the street busting guns, and like, it ain't all like that. It's school, and it's fun, and it's family, and it's complicated stuff, and it's fear, and it's laughter, and it's jokes, and it's walking to the corner store, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's the life that you live, you know what I mean? It's very similar to that. And I think that's important to me, because American culture, Black American culture, is America's greatest export. And unfortunately, the parts of it that get exported are oftentimes the parts that get exploited.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is an opportunity to say, we're also all of these things.
Yeah.
As well.
And then that's the richness of your books, is that, I find myself, so in our shop, Ghost is probably, one of our most popular best-selling books.
Awesome.
And I often chuckle to myself because, we sell Ghost, and I say to a parent, you'll be back for the next one because I know they will. But I'm selling these books to, so I guess the one that sticks in my mind is a 12-year-old white girl. We're in Brighton, so very middle class, very white. And I knew she'd be back, and she was back because it's relatable, because it makes sense, because it's speaking at the age and at the level that they are at. And it's for her, that girl probably never listens to hip hop, rap, or R&B, doesn't know those kind of connections. And so for me, it's so wonderful that she's getting this. This is what you're going to see about this culture. This is how you're going to see. These are your kind of early steps to Black culture and what that looks like. And then, we'll definitely slide in, an Alex Wheatle next to that and say, hey, look at slight differences for the British. And they're just massive wins. They're massive wins.
Absolutely.
Next question is, we hear you have a famous story about a goldfish. Share it with us. Yeah. I'm hoping this is a clean story about a goldfish.
Of course. I'm a bit concerned. I had this teacher in high school. I tell this, it's a true story, but I tell it to explain how people always ask me, did I have any good teachers? And I had two good teachers in my whole, in all 12, 13 years, 16 years, two really good ones. In my senior year, I had this teacher, Mr. Williams. He's still a very good friend of mine. And he taught me how to be a human, right? He taught me how to he taught us how to really be human. And that was the lesson. And so one day we came to class and he had this fish, it's a tropical fish. And he had an aquarium and he said, look, I bought this fish with my own money. And this is going to be our class pet. We're seniors in high school. So of course we're we too old to be we're too old for a class pet. We're 17, right? It doesn't matter. He's like, no. We're going to name this thing and we're going to feed it every day. And, it'll be the class pet. The only rule is, I know how you all are, knucklehead kids. Don't put your hands in the tank. Don't fool around. Don't touch the fish. If you ever put your fingers on this fish, I'm going to suspend you. And there'll be no nonsense, no negotiation. You are suspended. Do not put your fingers on the fish by any means. Okay, cool, Mr. Williams. Don't nobody want to touch your stinky fish, right? Whatever. A week or two goes by. We've named the fish. We've all fallen in love with the fish. And then Mr. Williams comes to class and he takes the fish out of the tank and he puts it on the floor. And the fish starts flapping around, and the fish is dying in front of us. And we all gather around, and these two young women came and they picked the fish up and they threw the fish back in the tank and they saved the fish life. And we're all like, geez, that was close. And Mr. Williams says, you two young ladies, pack your bags and go down to the principal's office. You're suspended. And they're like, why would you? What did we do wrong? And he's like, the rule was that you can't put your fingers on the fish by any means. You cannot touch the fish. That was the rule. And you touched the fish, so now you're suspended. Don't bother arguing with me. Go to the principal's office. I'll see you on Monday. You get a 0 for the day, et cetera, et cetera. They're angry with him. They're yelling at him. And they walk down the hall, and he pokes his head out the door, and he says, but hold your heads up, because you did the right thing. But sometimes doing the right thing has consequences. And on that day, I had to sit in my cowardice and think about what I should have done. All right. And the second thing I learned that day was that it's always young women. Always. And so for all the young men out there, you be respectful, be kind, because they are always the ones who lead. They're always the ones who sacrifice. Every time. They're the ones with the most courage. Every time. Look at all of our history. Look at every social movement. Do your research. It's always women. They don't get the credit for it. It's always women. And so that was the fish story. And it's a true story. And he stopped. I was at his house recently and he was telling me a story about, he's now retired. Mr. Williams in his 70s. He's been teaching for 45 years, I think. And he had done this so many years. He stopped doing it the last 5 years because a young girl came to him again and said, this is animal cruelty. And he said, you're right. So he stopped doing it. That was the end of it. But he said years later, another person from 20 years before came up to him and said, I want to show you something. And she opened up her purse and pulled out the suspension slip and said, "I saved the fish." And she saved it. For all these years later, she still had the suspension slip. He changed my life. Every day I think about saving the fish, which is why I work so hard for these kids.
Is that reflected a little bit then in the Ali needle situation? And we have this big fight in this book, and Ali knowing the consequences.
Of course. And most of my books, there's one of them situations, right? Where it's like, I tell kids all the time, Courage has As Brave as You, which I don't think came out over there, but it's a book called As Brave as You. And in that book, I talk about courage and how courage is not about the things you do, right? Sometimes it's about the things you don't do, right? It just depends on how you look at it. And in these situations, it's like, for me, it was like in this situation, in this moment, it was about the thing that you do. It's like, do I throw myself at the problem, knowing that it may be a bear trap, right? Or do I hide and hope somebody else deals with it? Am I willing to let the fish die unfairly, unjustly? The fish did nothing wrong, right? Or do I take the risk and save the fish, even if it means that I may have to work a little harder to fix whatever happens to my own life? At this point in my life, that's where I am, right? And and it's not a moral like at the end of the day, I don't want people to feel like, well, what if I have kids? Like parents are like, what if I have kids and I can't really do the thing and lose my job, right? That's all very real considerations. But we do have to ask ourselves the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this a moment to save the fish? We have to be always asking, is this a moment to save the fish?
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. A last question from our booksellers. Do you enjoy working with illustrators in your work?
Sorry if you guys can hear that knocking. They're building a house next to my house. So city life, it is what it is, Do I enjoy working with illustrators? I do, very much so, but I don't really work with them. I choose them and then I let them do what they want. So the real answer is I enjoy working with illustrators, but more importantly, I enjoy working with people I trust because I don't have to work. I do my job and then I give it to them and they do theirs. And because I trust them, I know it's going to be good. I wouldn't be working with them if I didn't trust them, right? Think about that in your lives when you deal with your friends, your partners, right? I only want to be around somebody that I can trust. Then I ain't got to work so hard. That's how it works.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely a lesson we learn as we get past our 30s.
That's a fact.
Jason, it's been an absolute delight talking to you. I hope that the next time I talk to you, it's because you've got on a plane and you're in the UK.
I think I might be coming out that way at the end of the year.
Great. Well, there's definitely a spot for you in Brighton. So do definitely send me a message and we'll make some space for you. Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for your work. I genuinely want to say that. I know that it is work. You don't just wake up and go, I've produced a book in my sleep. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the transparency and the labor that you're putting in for young people across the world. And it's definitely making a difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the booksellers. Thank you to Bookshop. I got love for y'all. Everybody who supported me over the years. I'm grateful for you, and hopefully I get to see you all soon.
Thank you very much.